start with the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Madam Charlotte Osei, who has once again assured Ghanaians that the 2016 elections will be a success. According to her, Ghana's electoral system is one of the best in the world, and with the reforms implemented, there is nowhere the polls will go wrong. Briefing election observers on Friday, Mrs. Osei says despite the plethora of problems that bedeviled Thursday's special voting exercise, she believes the December polls will be a great success. According to her, recent surveys by reputable groups show that Ghanaians have increased trust in the Commission to deliver free and fair elections.
We've done a lot of work this year. We believe at the Commission that we are ready for the elections. We believe that everything is in place for elections that are going to be very transparent, very credible, very inclusive, and that the outcome that we would announce would be the voice of the majority of Ghanaians as expressed through the ballot box. And I think that we've traveled a long journey, and some of the research that is coming up from independent civil society organizations such as the CDD show that yes, we are ready. There's been a survey recently launched on perceptions of the public and their concerns. It showed that 97% of voters are aware of the locations of their polling stations. And if they are not, there's a shortcut they can send their voter ID details to and they will get it on their phones. 96% of voters are aware of voting procedures, but will continue to do education up to the day of election. 92% of voters are aware that, yes, we're having two elections on December 7th, presidential and parliamentary. Earlier in the year, there was a proposal to Parliament to move the elections to November 7th rather than December 7th. Parliament voted against that, and so there was some concern as to whether voters know that the election date is on December 7th. 80% of them were aware that the election is going to be on December 7th. If they were not aware at the time this poll was conducted, I'm sure they are aware now.
The boss also revealed that the Commission has introduced new measures, including the provision of separate colors of indelible ink and the thumb pad in the polling booth to reduce spoiled ballots in this year's polls.
This has been a major issue of public concern in elections in Ghana. In 2012 elections, it was said that rejected ballots were the third highest candidates at the end of the elections, because rejected ballots amounted to 251,720 votes, more votes than some presidential candidates got. So we've done a lot of engagements, we've read a lot of the research as to what are the causes of the rejected ballots. Fundamentally, it's a matter for continued engagement and education of the public on how to vote. And we've done quite a bit of that. We've demonstrated it. We've had workshops. We've done flyers and posters showing people how to vote. We have, as I said, made a distinction between the color on the indelible ink and the color of the thumbprint pad. We have social media videos going around showing people how to vote. But we've also tweaked the ballot paper design a bit in our bid to reduce the number of rejected ballots. So if you look at our current ballot paper for this election, the boxes per candidate is larger, and the lines, the black lines separating the candidates is thicker, so that we prevent situations where in trying to vote for one candidate, the thumbprint runs into another box and the ballot is rejected.
Madam Charlotte Osei notes that the police will deploy some extra men to help deal with pockets of violence that may arise on election day.
During the limited voter registration exercise, yes, it's a small number, but it's high for Ghana. There were 23 incidents of violence around the country. During the vote transfer exercises, we also had instances where our offices were vandalized and our staff injured, just from tension among political party supporters when both when they meet there, and then they start arguing among themselves. So yes, we are concerned. We have identified, it used to be 81 constituencies as hotspots. After the incidents during the vote transfer exercise, we've upped it to 85 constituencies where we think that there's a probability of election-related violence. The police have identified about 5,000 police stations which they have designated as hotspots, which have to be watched very carefully. Yesterday we had a dialogue with the candidates. We've had a lot of engagements at IPAC also with the political parties, encouraging them to use dialogue and not violence to resolve any issues and concerns they may have during the process. We are also working very closely with the security agencies. And so, for instance, we know that at the hotspot areas, the police are deploying additional personnel at the polling stations, and there will be mobile police patrols in those areas so that if there's any incident, they would have a rapid response team that would get to the police station and take care of the situation. But we're really hopeful that our political leaders would show leadership and that we would not have incidents of violence.
Away from the EC, the Coalition of Civil Society Organizations Monitoring Abuse of Incumbency and Electoral Corruption in the 2016 elections, comprising the Ghana Integrity Initiative GII, Ghana Center for Democratic Development CDD Ghana, Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition GACC, and the Citizens Movement Against Corruption CMAC have released its second report. The report focused on fair and equal access to state media resources, electoral corruption or vote buying, and some recommendations. Joining me on the phone to speak more on this report is Michael Kwame Boidi, who is the Corporate Affairs Manager of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Good evening to you. So what are the key issues, fair and equal access to state media resources?
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Boidi. You are on Joy News, and I'm asking, what are the key issues on fair and equal access to state media resources?
Right. You know, the Constitution, particularly Article 163, makes this provision that, state media ought to give fair and equal access to all political parties. So what we are saying is that, what the coalition is saying is that we must ensure that the Constitution, we were monitoring to ensure that the Constitution is being followed.
All right.
Now, how are we monitoring? We are just looking at the amount of airtime that is given to all political parties contesting the 2016 election, and we are also looking at the stakes and prominence that are given to stories concerning all the political parties.
All right. So your report also focuses on electoral corruption. What is that's popularly known as vote buying, if I'm correct. What were your findings on that particular issue?
Yeah, the line is quite it's not good enough. But if I heard you right, you were asking what were our findings?
Your revelations, on vote buying.
On vote buying, right. Well, in our findings, we realized that the two main political parties, the NDC and the NPP, were all doing acts that amounted to vote buying. And vote buying basically involves either you handing over physical cash, to voters to influence them to vote for you, or you are giving them other materials ostensibly to influence their voting decision.
Right.
So we noticed that, and we have cataloged a list of them in the report, the summary report we shared with you. We have a detailed report which we'll make available to all media houses and all stakeholders as well.
All right. So what were some of the recommendations you made in this report?
Yes. What we are saying is that we realize that, one, people are not conscious of their acts, especially acts that they do that amounted to vote buying, and also the citizens does not escape blame because they are also selling our vote. Now, the challenge is that when we turn the voting into a transactional thing where we sell the vote, the politicians buy the vote, then it weakens our resolve to hold them to account when they win or they come to power. And therefore, we are recommending that, there should be some form of education to discourage this vote buying and vote selling. Going also forward, we are also encouraging all stakeholders to start thinking about a certain window where we would have a season, a political season, so we don't have a 4-year round election campaigning, but then we'll have a certain period within maybe the voting year where we say, okay, well, campaigning starts now, and then at that point we will be able to put certain things in place. Now, if it comes to, for instance, the media biasing information, where the state media gives a lot of prominence to the incumbent government, we are saying there is the argument that, look, there is also the commercial considerations that ought to be based, i.e. the state media must survive, and therefore when the political parties come to buy airtime, then obviously they would have to sell to them, and so the weaker parties that do not have the same amount of resources do not have the same. We are saying that, look, then let's think about a fund that is set up so that during the campaign season, that fund is used to support the state media, so that at least there will be a fair and balanced reportage across board. Star Ghana has shown that if the state media is supported, they would make efforts to ensuring that everybody, every political party or every political actor gets a fair or balanced report. So we are saying that is a good example, but the Star Ghana thing will not last forever. So that we must begin as a people to think about setting up a fund that will support the state media during the campaign season, so that the commercial consideration will not play up against their constitutional requirement or constitutional mandate.
Mr. Boydi, your research or your findings pointed out to some specific political parties. I'm talking about the NDC, NPP, who were engaged in vote buying. You also cited the NDC for abuse of incumbency. How did you come by all of these?
Yes, what in doing our study, this is in fact the second report. We launched the first report sometime in September, and the findings are virtually the same. Right. What we did was that we trained monitors who are embedded in the campaigns of the various political parties, and then we gave them some tools, equipment, tablets, and devices that helps them to capture these activities. And so everything that we're putting out there, we have evidence to support it. Now, these people live within the constituencies where they captured their various abuses of incumbency and vote buying. When they bring these reports, we don't only take them hook, line, and sinker. We verify and to confirm that indeed these reports are authentic. And so all the reports that we're putting out there have been properly verified, and we can vouch for it.
Well, many thanks to you. Michael Kwame Boydi is the Corporate Affairs Officer of GII. We'll take a break on Joy News Prime. When we return, there is more.